Tonight, the region's cafes, pubs and restaurants open, but with new regulations in place. And coronavirus high on the agenda as the Shadow Cabinet visits Whyalla.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening, everyone. South Australian residents can now visit local restaurants, pubs and cafes after restrictions were lifted late Friday. Some Port Pirie vendors open today with strict social distancing regulations in place.
Catching up for a coffee at the Ellen Hotel, these local leaders aren't taking their gathering for granted.
I'm not very good by myself. I need to have people's company, and it is fantastic that we can stretch out and have a coffee.
Dusting off the coronavirus cobweb, staff are also thrilled to be back.
To see the faces back, and people back on the floor and dining and communicating, and everyone's sort of glad to be out.
Strict social distancing regulations are in place to combat coronavirus fears. Just 20 patrons, 10 outside and 10 inside, are allowed at any given time.
Social distancing is not just for now, it's for the future. I think it's probably indefinite, that we'll be conscious of social distancing.
Local eateries have been feeling the pinch, but Business Port Pirie's president is keeping positive.
To get through quite a long period, and I don't think things are going to be all that fantastic for the next few months, but we need to remain positive.
Port Pirie residents are being encouraged to dig deep in their pockets and support local wherever they can to help businesses survive during these trying times.
I encourage people to actually support those local communities out there because they're the backbone of our community. They're the ones that are employing our locals. They're the ones employing our children and our grandchildren.
And if we support the locals like we should and have been of late, we'll get through this.
Those opting to eat out are urged to book in.
They've done a great job supporting us with the takeaway, and now please come back and support us again in the restaurant.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
State Labor arrived in Whyalla today for a 2-day visit. The opposition leader and a number of shadow ministers meeting with local residents and businesses, with the impact of coronavirus in regional areas a hot topic.
Discussing the wonders of Whyalla, South Australia's Labor leader travelling around the city hearing firsthand what is needed to kickstart the state's regional economy.
I'm very glad to be here in Whyalla with key members of the Labor leadership team to talk to people on the ground about the impacts of COVID-19, but particularly more broadly, the economic impact, which we know is real throughout the country, and Whyalla is no exception. With regional South Australia home to a large portion of our state's jobs, the opposition leader says providing support is crucial. We have an obligation to do everything we can at a state level to invest in jobs in South Australia.
Job security to me has always been the priority. Anything we can do to secure jobs and to grow jobs, that is what we should be doing. The team looking forward to speaking directly with locals. We'll be catching up with the union movement in Whyalla, the Chamber of Commerce, the council, and a number of contractors as well. I'm a firm believer that you can read all the briefings in the world, but nothing replicates face-to-face contact, talking to small business owners, talking to workers. Opposition leader Peter Malinauskas and shadow ministers also spending time at the steelworks, an industry which makes up a large sum of Whyalla. Understanding the impact of that on GFG and here in Whyalla is going to be crucial to ensure that state government does everything we possibly can to preserve the long-term viability of this plant, but also the Whyalla economy generally. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A 42-year-old Broken Hill man has been charged with break and enter following an investigation by local officers. Police will allege the man gained access to a Rose Street property while its occupants were sleeping.
Back in April, residents of a Rose Street property reported to police that their home had been broken into.
They woke up to find a few things had been moved, a couple of things had been stolen, including a sandwich press.
Officers conducting a forensic investigation identifying a 42-year-old male suspect. However, it wasn't until last week did police make an arrest.
Police were actually out and about and found that fellow, and he's been arrested and charged.
2 USB storage devices were found on the man, police believing they may be connected to other recent break and enters.
So we're doing further investigation in relation to those, but he has been charged with the break and enter from Rose Street, and he's also been charged with goods in custody suspected of being stolen.
Another Broken Hill man in his 40s was arrested on Friday night for an unrelated matter. He was stopped by police whilst riding a bike on McCulloch Street.
He had no helmet, he had no white light on the front and no red light on the back, which is a requirement here in New South Wales when you are riding a bike at night.
Police searched the man and found what's believed to be an illegal drug as well as a metal pole.
Spoke to him a bit further and he has now been charged with possessing a prohibited drug as well as possessing a implement.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
An 18-year-old P-plater was caught drink driving in Whyalla Friday night. Police stopped a car on McDowell Street Avenue around 8:45. The driver allegedly returning a breath test reading of .040. He was fined for breaching his probationary conditions and failing to produce his licence. He received a direction not to drive and will face further licence disqualifications. And an 18-year-old Tumby Bay P-plater has been hit with a $2,000 fine after being allegedly caught going 50 kilometres over the limit at Crystal Brooks Saturday night. Just after 10, patrols detected the motorist travelling 162 in a 110 zone on the Augusta Highway. Police also alleged there were 2 other passengers in the car. The man lost his licence on the spot for 6 months. Still to come tonight, a new health plan released for the Whyalla and Port Augusta hospitals, and local council set for a federal government cash injection. Welcome back. Providing better mental health, maternity and emergency services is on the cards for the Whyalla and Port Augusta hospitals. The local health network releasing a new plan to ensure residents have the best care available.
It's been in the making for 18 months, bringing together clinicians to get an understanding of what areas need improvement.
Really importantly, that it has involved consulting with our consumers about what they see as the priorities and the health needs moving forward over the next 5 to even 10 years.
Key services will be further developed at both the Port Augusta and Whyalla hospitals.
Might already have cancer services in our local health network, where we might already have a very strong renal service. This is about building on the future, what those services will be required moving forward.
Upgrading maternity services in Whyalla, a key focus of the plan. SA Health will investigate recruiting a permanent obstetrician for the city, allowing more local women to give birth locally.
We hope to be able to build our maternity services across the region. Look, the specifics of how that will look like, is still to be worked through. We just know that we have identified that that's an important focus of this service plan.
However, attracting staff remains a hurdle in regional areas.
Building on that with the universities and training organisations to really build a really strong workforce to enable us to develop maternity services will be important.
Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Councils across the Spencer Gulf will benefit from a multi-billion-dollar federal government cash splash. Port Pirie Council will receive nearly $500,000 to put towards community projects and road upgrades.
A much-needed community boost to stimulate the economy.
28 councils that will be benefiting and another 4 remote Indigenous communities. It ranges in grey from around about $900,000 down to $150,000 or so.
Councils across Grey will be receiving a share of the $1.8 billion in federal government funding. Road upgrades and maintenance within these towns are focus of the cash splash.
It's related to the kilometres of roads that each council has. Now, the money's not just for roads, even though a lot of councils will use it for that purpose.
Port Pirie's Mayor is welcoming the support, describing it as a win for the council.
A few in our asset recovery projects that we want to look at. So this one will go through our asset meeting and we'll decide what one we're going to use it for.
The member for Frome also pleased with the announcement. He suggests roads in Port Pirie, such as this one, should be prioritised.
Wandera Road in particular is an absolute disgrace. I'll be quite frank, I'm very frustrated with that one there. There are other parts of Port Pirie that really don't have any sealed roads, and so I would encourage the council to look at those roads that are unsealed.
He's also encouraging councils to apply for other stimulus packages amid the coronavirus crisis.
Both the state and the federal have got all these stimulus packages going. If councils don't apply for it, then somebody else will take that money.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Renovations and upgrades of public housing in South Australia will continue to be fast-tracked over the next few months as part of the state government's $10 million maintenance boost to kickstart jobs and support local businesses throughout the pandemic. 1,400 properties around the state will see upgrades, with Port Augusta seeing public realm works begin in the near future. South Australia's Environmental Protection Agency is reviewing the way it releases information about incidents. The review comes after 2 breaches at Port Pirie's Near-Star smelters were not publicly disclosed. Environment Minister David Spears says certain incidents, while not a health risk, are in the public interest. Residents can have their say via the EPA's website. Stay with us. A social media challenge raises thousands of dollars for Broken Hill Lifeline. And a Whyalla Park receives a significant upgrade. A Whyalla couple has won $100,000 from an instant scratch ticket. The locals purchased the $5 ticket on Thursday morning at Westlands News Agency, returning an hour later thinking they'd only won $10,000. They were more excited when they were told to add another zero.
They came back this morning and thanked us, and she said she's still shaking today. She's that excited.
It's the first time in recent years the store has had a large winner. The couple plan on sharing their winnings with family. A fundraising initiative to support Lifeline Broken Hill has more than quadrupled its desired total just days after being launched. The idea coming from a mental health internet craze, sparking controversy in the region.
The Broken Hill community getting right behind their Lifeline branch.
There's an opportunity here for everyone to get behind and support our cause, and that we can then strengthen our organisation so that we can get some important services that the community need.
A men's mental health challenge is tasking men to swallow an egg and a cup of sugar and also scull a beer and a shot of spirit. While its intentions to raise awareness are good, the challenge has received some criticism. Local businessman Steve Radford coming up with a better idea.
The challenge was to the community that if they raised an amount of money, $5,000, that I would match that $5,000 and then conquer a challenge that they put to me.
In just 7 days, $36,000 has already been raised. The money going toward a full-time social worker at Lifeline.
Our community in Broken Hill, we've seen over 20 men take their own lives in the last 2 years. It's having a huge impact on our community, so having an initiative like this and getting Steve's support goes a long way in preventing and saving lives.
The community now tasked with coming up with Steve's next challenge.
Lifeline will shortlist that to probably 15. I'll get a selection of probably 2 or 3, and the community will vote on what those challenges will be.
If you or someone you know needs help, contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Patrick Ryankey, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
As the temperature plummets around the region, many of us have homes and clothes to keep us warm. For some in Port Augusta, they rely on the kindness of strangers to donate items such as blankets and coats.
As winter sets in, one Port Augusta local is calling on the public to help the homeless. Anne-Marie has been collecting donations of warm clothes to give to those in need for 3 years.
People have knitted blankets and all sorts, beanies. I've got a friend that's made me about 25 beanies for keep their heads warm, and nobody chooses to be homeless.
She says the city's generosity never ceases to amaze her.
There's something special about Port Augusta people, I think, because of that kindness that's there, and we've been through tough times, over the years, over a long period of time, but I think that people know that they can actually make a difference to people's lives.
The donations are given to the Stepping Stones organisation, who pass them on.
The clients don't often go to the charity shops. they rely on people, places like us.
Anne-Marie also wanting to raise awareness about the plight of those without a roof.
It's not their choice, it's just how it is. And sometimes you don't see that. I've talked to a lot of people about homelessness and some people don't even know that it's happening.
Donations are being collected at the Seagram's office on Marriott Street. Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Works on Wyalla's Norton Park upgrade have now been completed, with state-of-the-art facilities and equipment installed. The $400,000 project already proving quite popular with local children.
Riding round and round this new pump track, it's the latest playground Whyalla children can't get enough of.
I love riding my scooter.
Something this reserve hasn't really had before, and bringing in these new elements has really activated the area. It's great to see.
City Council spending time consulting with locals before the upgrade.
Elements of this reserve have come from ideas from the public.
New parking facilities and a new barbecue area has been installed, as well as brand new female and unisex public toilets.
Planted a lot of trees as well, just to where there's been gaps to bring shade to the area.
Upgraded playground equipment, also a popular feature, with a brand new sky surf installed. It's the latest craze where you spin around with a friend.
It's quite a special piece of equipment and it's a great workout. So yeah, I'd encourage everyone to have a bit of a go on that because we're first to have that in Whyalla as well.
And the popular pump track, a first for Whyalla, already a hit with the children.
We went up to the Barossa Valley recently and we were looking everywhere for one, and now we've got one in our hometown. It's good. It'd be good to have one at the other side of town as well.
We love the new playground.
Council also plan to add a new footpath in the future. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We check the day's finance news, and we'll have the weather details with Britt. Hello again. Time for a quick check of the day's finance, and it was a strong start to the week. Santos was up 3%, while BHP also rose. Regional Express jumped by nearly 1%, as did Bendigo Bank. However, Elders and Clean Seas both finished the day down. And the ASX 200 and All Ordinaries were both up by just over 2%. And time to take a look at what's happening in the weather. Here's Britt.
Thanks, John, and good evening. We'll start with today, where we saw partly cloudy conditions about the region. Maximum temperatures sat mostly in the mid-teens, apart from Woodner, where it was a little warmer, reaching 18 degrees today. Kadina, Cleve and Coffin Bay had highs of 16, Port Augusta and Whyalla both 15, Port Lincoln, Broken Hill, Port Pirie and Adelaide 14, Clare 13 today. Low cloud moved over the Gulf from the south, bringing cool southerly winds. To our west, thick cloud associated with a deep low off the west coast, and to our east, clearer skies under high pressure today. Now we'll move on to tomorrow on the Gulf waters. Northeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots, increasing up to 20 knots in the evening. Seas at 1 to 2 metres, with south to southwesterly swells around 1 metre. A cloudy morning at Port Lincoln tomorrow, with showers expected in the afternoon and evening, looking at a top of 17 degrees. Cleve showers developing, 16 the high. Woodner partly cloudy with a possible shower developing in the late morning and afternoon, a top of 17 degrees. But it's not looking like we'll see any showers at Whyalla or Port Augusta tomorrow, both looking partly cloudy with tops of 17. Kadina also 17, partly cloudy with showers developing in the afternoon and evening. Port Pirie remaining dry, partly cloudy tomorrow with a top of 18 degrees, Clare fine and 14, and a mostly sunny day for Broken Hill, looking at a top of 16. Let's take a quick look ahead through the week now. Showers forecast about the west coast, mid-north, as well as the York and lower air peninsulas on Wednesday. Mostly fine elsewhere. Port Augusta and Whyalla both with highs of 19. Thursday fine and partly cloudy, maximum temperatures sitting in the late teens. And we've got a sunny day coming up on Friday with a little bit of cloud over Broken Hill. Maximum temperatures creeping into the early 20s. So John, it's looking like conditions are only going to get better as the week goes on. I can't wait till Friday.
Thanks for that, Britt. And that's the local news this Monday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later, but until then, enjoy your evening. On behalf of the team, it's good night.